Hello dear learners, welcome to this SWAYAM NPTEL online course on inclusive education. This is week 3 and today we are going to discuss lecture number 15, that is models of disability. During this lecture we will discuss and try to understand different models of disabilities like the medical model, social model, charity model, the human rights based model and the biopsychosocial model of disability. How we think about disability is not just a matter of words, but it shapes attitudes, writes laws and builds the world around us. These different ways of thinking are called models of disability, which are basically frameworks that explain what disability is and how we should approach it. Over the time, our understanding has made a huge shift. We have moved from seeing disability as a problem inside a person to seeing it as a problem caused by an inflexible society. Early on, ideas like the charity model, which sees disability as a tragedy, and the medical model, which sees it as a health problem to be fixed, were common. Today, the conversation is led by more modern ideas like the social and human rights model, which push for changing society, not the people. Understanding these different viewpoints is the first step to creating a world that is truly fair for everyone. Let us try to discuss the medical model of disability that is related to the health problem. This is one of the oldest and the most traditional way of looking at disability. It sees disability as a health condition located within the person that needs to be diagnosed, treated or fixed. This view became popular with the rise of modern medicine, which framed disability as a physical or mental deficit. The core concepts related to medical model of disability are a personal deficit. Disability is seen as a deviation from what is considered as normal body or mind. It focuses on a cure. The main goal is to cure, rehabilitate or help the individual to adapt to societal expectations. The individual is responsible. According to this model, the person with the disability is expected to seek medical help to manage their conditions. Experts in charge. Doctors and medical professionals are seen as the experts who have the authority to define a person's conditions and potentials under this model. This thinking is the foundation of institutions like hospitals and rehabilitation centers. Let us try to understand this model by taking an example. Imagine a person starts having trouble seeing clearly. From the perspective of this medical model, the process would look like this. First, find the problem. The person is seen as a patient with a deficit. He would go to an eye doctor for a series of tests to find out what is wrong with the eyes. Get a diagnosis. The doctor diagnoses the specific medical condition, for instance, glaucoma. The entire problem is located within the individual's body, specifically his eyes. The third one is prescribe a fix. The doctor as the expert in control, prescribes a treatment aimed at correcting the issue. This could be eye drops, surgery, or a new pair of glasses. The goal is to treat the physical impairment to restore or improve the person's vision. The model does not consider any other factors such as whether the text on the computer at work is too small or if the street light in their neighborhood are too dim. The focus is entirely on fixing the individual's body. But there are many advantages of this model. First one is advances medical treatment. This model has driven significant advancements in clinical care, diagnosis and rehabilitation techniques that can greatly improve a person's quality of life and functioning. It provides clear classification. It creates a standardized criteria for diagnosing and classifying impairments, which is essential for healthcare systems and insurance policies. But there are many disadvantages of this medical model of disability, because it ignores the environment. It focuses only on the individual's body, completely ignoring how social and physical barriers like lack of ramps or widespread prejudices are what truly disable a person. It can be disempowering. It puts control in the hands of doctors, which can limit the autonomy and self-determination of people with disabilities. It creates negative stereotypes as well. By focusing on what's wrong, it can lead to people with disabilities being seen as sick or broken rather than as whole individuals. The next model of disability is the social model of disability that considers society as a problem. The social model flips the script entirely. It argues that people are not disabled by their impairments, but by the barriers which society puts in their way. This powerful idea is the philosophical heart of the global disability rights movement. The core concepts related to social model of disabilities are a crucial distinction. This model separates impairment, that is a person's physical or mental condition, from disability, that is the disadvantage caused by a society not built for them. As advocates famously said, disability is imposed on top of our impairments. Barriers cause disability. It is not an impairment that holds someone back, but barriers do. This can be physical like stairs, attitudinal like prejudice, or institutional like unfair policies. Society must change. As for this social model of disability, the focus is on removing barriers and changing society, not on fixing the individual. It focuses on empowerment. It reframes people with disabilities as active agents of change and rights holders, not passive patients. Let us try to understand this model by taking an example. A person who uses a wheelchair is not disabled by their inability to walk. He is disabled by the shop that only has stairs at its entrance. The barriers are the architecture, not the impairment. There are many advantages of this model of disability. For example, empowering. This model has empowered people with disabilities by identifying a common cause for their exclusion and framing them as active rights holders. It drives the social change. It has been the driving force behind major anti-discrimination laws and policies worldwide, such as Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 in India. It promotes inclusion. It advocates for concepts like universal design, making things accessible to all from the start, and inclusive education. But there are some disadvantages of this model of disabilities. For example, it can downplay lived experience. Critics argue that by focusing so heavily on social barriers, the model can sometimes ignore the real personal experience of pain or chronic illness. It may neglect medical needs. In its strong rejection of the medical model, it can risk downplaying the importance of necessary medical treatment and rehabilitation. It can be seen as Western centric. The model has been criticized for not always accounting for the intersection of disability with poverty, race or gender, especially in the global south. The next model of disability is the charity model of disabilities, which is considered as disabilities as tragedy. This model views people with disabilities as unfortunate and tragic figures who observe pity and need to be cared for. It is an old perspective rooted in religious and philanthropic traditions where helping was seen as a moral duty. The core concepts related to the charity model of disabilities are disabilities as misfortunate. It frames having a disability as a tragedy which naturally leads to feeling of pity or sorrow. It emphasizes on helping. The focus is on providing care out of kindness, not on ensuring rights. It creates dependence. People with disabilities are often portrayed as helpless individuals who need to rely on others for support. Power imbalance. It creates a dynamic or helpers, non-disabled people, and the helped, that is disabled people, where decisions are made for them, not with them. Let us try to understand this model of disability by taking an example. Imagine you see a fundraising commercial on television. It opens with a shot of a child with a visual disability sitting alone while other children play in the background. Slow, sad music begins to play. A narrator says in a sober voice, "For thousands of children, life is a daily struggle. Their condition is a personal tragedy, but you can be their hero. Your donation can provide the care they so desperately need. Please give today." This is a perfect example of the charity model in action because it focuses on pity. The ad is carefully designed to make you feel sympathy and sorrow for the child, framing their disability as a misfortunate. It creates a power imbalance. It positions the viewer as the powerful helper and the child as a passive, helpless person who needs to be rescued. It ignores rights and equality. The ad does not mention the child's right to an inclusive education or the need for accessible playgrounds. The solution it offers is charity from others, not a society that ensures equality and justice for everyone. The message is that the child is an object of kindness, not an equal citizen who is being helped back by societal barriers. However, there are many advantages of this model of disability because it provides essential help. Historically, charitable organizations provided food, shelter and basic care for people with disabilities when no other state or social systems were in place to do so. It raises awareness and funds. Although often criticized, emotive campaigns can be effective at raising public awareness and generating funds for services or research. There are many disadvantages of this model of disability because it is patronizing. The model is deeply disempowering because it treats people with disabilities as object of pity rather than as equals with rights and agency. It hinders inclusion. By framing people with disabilities as other and different, it creates social distance and acts as a barrier to true inclusion. It avoids the real issue because it makes disability as a personal problem to be pitied rather than a political issue of social justice and systemic inequality. The next model of disability is the human rights model that consider disability as a matter of equality. This is the modern global standard. It declares that people with disabilities are not problems to be fixed or objects of pity, but are human beings entitled to the same rights and freedoms as everyone else. This approach is cemented in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The core concepts related to this model of disability are equality with non-discrimination. A disability should never be a reason for unequal treatment or denial of opportunity. It considers dignity and autonomy. Every person's inherent worth must be respected, including their right to make their own choices about their life. It focuses on full participation. People with disabilities have the right to be fully included in all parts of society, from school and work to politics and culture. It emphasizes that accessibility is a right. Society has a legal obligation to ensure that environments, transportation and information are accessible to everyone, including persons with disabilities. Let us try to understand this model of disability by taking an example. Imagine a skilled accountant named Mohan who uses a wheelchair applies for a job at a top firm. A company stuck in an older model might see him through a different lens. The charity model lens, it would be a nice act of kindness to hire him. The medical model lens, will his physical condition be a problem for productivity? However, a company operating under the human rights model sees the situation through a lens of law and equality. Focus on skill, not disability. The hiring manager assesses Mohan's application based on solely on his qualification, experience and performance in the interview. The same criteria used for every other applicant. His use of a wheelchair is not a factor in his ability to be a great accountant. It recognizes legal duty. The company understands that anti-discrimination laws make it illegal to deny him the job because he uses a wheelchair. He has a right to equal opportunity. It provides accommodations as a right. The office is on the second floor of a building without an elevator. Under the human rights model, the company has a legal obligation to provide reasonable accommodations. This could mean moving the team to an accessible ground floor office or installing a ramp or lift. This is not done as a special favor for Mohan. It is a legal and social obligation to remove a barrier so that he can exercise his rights to work and participate fully just like any other citizen. There are many advantages of this model of disability, because this model believes in legally enforceable. Unlike other models, its principles are backed by international and national laws, making governments accountable. It is related to empowering the people with disabilities, because it recognizes people with disabilities as active citizens with a voice and control over their own lives. It addresses systemic issue. It builds on the social model by legally obligating states to remove barriers and actively promote equality. But there are many disadvantages as well of this model of disability. Gaps in implementation. Many countries sign the treaties, but lack the resources or political will to actually put the principles into practice. Cultural resistance. Deep-seated medical or charitable views of disability can make it difficult for a rights-based approach to take hold in some societies. Complex legal changes. Shifting from old systems like guardianship to new ones like supported decision making requires huge systematic legal reforms. The next model of disability is the biopsychosocial model of disability that considers big picture of disability. This model offers a holistic framework that tries to bring everything together. It recognizes that disability is complex and arises from the dynamic interaction between the person's health conditions, their psychological state and their social environment as well. The core concepts related to this biopsychosocial model of disabilities are as follows. Biological factors. This includes a person's physical health, genetic conditions or injuries. Psychological factors. This covers a person's mental and emotional well-being, their mindset and their coping strategies. Social factors. This involves the world around the person, including family support, cultural attitudes, income and physical barriers in the community. Let us try to understand this model of disability by taking an example. A student with ADHD might benefit from medication to help with focus, the biological part, a structured classroom routine to reduce anxiety, that is the psychological part, and getting extra time on tests to ensure a fair assessment, that is social or environmental part. All three aspects are addressed together. There are many advantages of this model of disability. First one is holistic and person centered. It looks at the whole person, body, mind and environment rather than just one aspect. It is flexible and adaptable. It can be applied in many different settings, from hospitals and schools to policy makings. It reduces stigma because it moves away from blaming the individual or society and instead of promotes a more balanced understanding of a person's need. It encourages empowerment because It sees the individuals as an active agent in managing their own health and life. There are some disadvantages of this model of disability because it is difficult to implement. For example, getting doctors, psychologists and social workers to coordinate effectively is challenging and often does not happen in fragmented healthcare systems. It can still be medically based because in practice the bio part of the model can often overshadow the psychological and social aspects unless people are careful to give them equal weight. Can be vague because it is so broad. It can sometimes be difficult to put into practice or to measure whether it is working effectively. After going through the various models of disability, now we can conclude that the various models of disability offer different lenses through which to understand disability. While early models like the medical and charity models viewed disabilities as an individual flaws or misfortune requiring cure or pity, more progressive models like the social and human rights model of disability emphasize that disability is largely a result of societal barriers and a matter of human rights. The biopsychosocial model attempts to integrate these perspectives. Ultimately, a contemporary understanding of disability moves beyond individual deficit to focus on creating inclusive societies where all individuals can participate equally and exercise their fundamental rights. There are some references here. Thank you.